Chapter 11 of Dot and the Kangaroo. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dot and the Kangaroo by Ethel C. Pedley. Chapter 11. The next day they travelled a long distance. At about noon they came to a part of the country which the Kangaroo said she knew well. "But we must be careful," she said, "as we are very near humans in this part." As Dot was tired, for she'd had to walk much more than usual, the Kangaroo suggested that she should rest at the pretty spot they'd reached, while she herself went in search of Willy Wagtail. Dot had to promise the Kangaroo over and over again not to leave the spot during her absence. She was afraid lest the little girl should get lost like the little Joey. After many farewells and much hopping back to give Dot warnings and make promises of returning soon, the Kangaroo went in search of Willy Wagtail, and the little girl was left all alone. Dot looked for a nice shady nook in which to lie down and rest, and she found the place so cheerful and pretty that she was not afraid of being alone. She was in the hollow of an old watercourse. It was rather like an English forest glade, it was so open and grassy, and here and there were pretty shrubs and little hillocks and hollows. At first Dot thought that she would sit on the branch of a huge tree that had but recently fallen and lay forlornly clothed in withered leaves. But opposite to this dead giant of the bush was a thick shrub with a decayed tree stump beside it that made a nice sheltered corner which she liked better. So Dot laid herself down there, and in a few minutes she was fast asleep, though, as she dropped off into the land of dreams, she thought how wonderfully quiet that little glade was, and felt somewhat surprised to find no bush creatures to keep her company. Some time before Dot woke, her dreams became confused and strange. There seemed to be great crowds in them, and the murmur of many voices talking together. As she gradually awakened, she realized that the voices were real, and not a part of her dreams. There was a great hubbub, a fluttering of wings and rustling of leaves and grass. Through all this confusion, odd sentences became clear to her drowsy senses. Such phrases as, "You'd better perch here. This isn't your place. Go over there. No, I'm sure I'm right. The welcome swallow says so. Has anyone gone for the opossum? He says the court ought to be held at night. Don't make such a noise or you'll wake the prisoner. Who's to be the judge?" This last inquiry provoked such a noise of diverse opinions that Dot became fully awake, and sitting up, gazed around with eyes full of astonishment. When she had fallen asleep, there had not been a creature near her, but now she was literally hemmed in on every side by birds and small animals. The branches of the fallen tree were covered with a feathered company, and in the open space between it and Dot's nook was a constantly increasing crowd of larger birds, such as cranes, plover, duck, turkey buzzards, black swan, and amongst them a great grave pelican. The animals were few, and apparently came late. There was a little timid wallaby, a bandicoot, some kangaroo rats, a shy wombat who grumbled about the daylight, as also did a native bear and an opossum, who were really driven to the gathering by a bevy of screaming parrots. Dot was wide awake at once with delight. Nearly every creature she had ever heard of seemed to be present, and the brilliant colours of the parrots and parakeets made the scene as gay as a rainbow in a summer noonday sky. "Oh, you darlings," she said, "how good of you all to come and see me." This greeting from Dot caused an instant silence among the creatures, and she could not help seeing that they looked very uncomfortable. There was soon a faint whispering from bird to bird, which rose higher and higher, until Dot made out that they were all saying, "She ought to be told. You tell her. No, you tell her yourself. It's not my business." and every bird, for it was the birds who by reason of their larger numbers took the lead in the proceedings, seemed to be trying to shift an unpleasant task upon its neighbours. Presently the solemn pelican waddled forward and stood before Dot, saying to the assemblage, "I will explain our presence." Addressing the little girl, it said, "We are here to place you on trial for the wrongs we bush creatures have suffered from the cruelties of white humans. You will meet with all fairness in your trial, as the proceedings will be conducted according to the custom of your own courts of justice. The welcome swallow, having built its nest for 3 successive seasons under the eaves of the Gabble-Babble courthouse, is deeply learned in human law business, and will instruct us how to proceed. Your conviction will therefore leave you no room for complaint so far as your trial is concerned." All the birds clapped their wings in applause at the conclusion of this speech, and the pelican was told by the welcome swallow that he should plead as prosecutor. "What do you mean, plead as prosecutor?" asked the pelican gravely. "You've got to get the prisoner convicted as guilty, whether she is or not," answered the swallow, making a dart at a mosquito, which it ate with relish. "Oh," said the pelican doubtfully, and all the creatures looked at one another as if they didn't quite understand the justice of the arrangement. "But," said the pelican, hesitating a little, "suppose I don't think the prisoner guilty? She seems very small and harmless." "That doesn't matter at all. You've got to get her made out as guilty by the jury. It's good human law," snapped the swallow, and all the creatures said, "Oh." "Now for the defence," said the swallow briskly. "There ought to be someone for that. Who is friendly with the king?" "Who's the king?" asked all the creatures breathlessly. "He's a bigger human than all the rest, and everybody's business is his business, so he's always going to law." "I know," said the magpie, and she piped out 6 bars of God Save the King. "You are the one for the defence," said the swallow, quite delighted, as were all the other creatures, at the magpie's accomplishment. "You must save the prisoner from the jury finding her guilty." "But," objected the magpie, "how can I, when only last fruit season my brother and 2 sisters and 6 cousins were shot just because they ate a few grapes?" "That doesn't matter. You've got to get her off, I tell you," said the swallow irritably. "Go over there and ask her what you are to say." So the magpie flew over to Dot's side, and she at once began to teach it the rest of God Save the King. "I like this game," Dot presently said to the magpie. "Do you?" said the magpie with surprise. "It seems to me very slow, and there's no sense in it." "Why are the birds all perching together over there?" asked Dot, pointing to a branch of the dead tree. "Since they all hate one another and want to get away. The galas have pecked the butcher bird twice in 5 minutes. The peeweet keeps quarrelling with the soldier bird, and none of them can bear the English sparrow." "The swallow says that's the jury," answered the magpie. "Their business is to do what they like with you when all the talking is done, and whether they find you guilty or not will depend on if they are tired or hungry and feel cross, or if the trial lasts only a short time and they are pleased with the grubs that will be brought them presently." "How funny," said Dot, not a bit alarmed at all these preparations for her trial, for she loved all the creatures so much that she could not think that any of them wished to hurt her. "If this is human law," said the magpie, "it isn't funny at all. It is mad or wicked. Fancy my having to defend a human." At this point in their conversation, the ill feeling amongst the jury broke out into open fighting, because the English sparrow was a foreigner, and they said that it would certainly sympathize with the humans who'd brought it to Australia. This was just an excuse to get rid of it. The sparrow said that it wanted to go out of the jury and had never wished to belong to it, and flew away joyfully. Then all the rest of the jury grumbled at the good luck of the sparrow in getting out of the trial, for they could see it pecking up grass seed and enjoying itself greatly, whilst they were all crowded together on one branch,